He had just won the biggest race of his life. The confetti was still falling. His crew was still screaming. And for about 90 seconds, Heim had the kind of moment most race car drivers wait their entire careers for and never get. Then someone walked up behind him. Not a stranger, not a rival, a teammate. Someone from his own race team, in his own colors, on his own pit road. And what got said in that moment, quietly, almost under the noise of the celebration, is the reason we're making this video today. Because here's the strange part. Nobody at that track was angry. Nobody threw a punch. Nobody stormed off. On the surface, it looked like exactly what it was supposed to look like. One driver congratulating another. But if you slow it down, if you actually listen to the words that were used, there's a version of this story where a brand new winner gets told, in his moment of glory, that this might be the only time it ever happens to him. Was that the intention? We don't know yet. Stick with us, because by the end of this video, you're going to have heard exactly what was said, exactly what NASCAR insiders are saying about it, and exactly why this single race might end up reshaping one of the most powerful teams in the sport. This is NASCAR Report Today, and this is the story coming out of the most chaotic, most historic weekend NASCAR has had all year. Before we get into it, I want to say something real for a second. This channel is small right now. We don't have a massive production budget. We don't have insider access to the garage. What we have is a genuine love for this sport and a community of people who show up every single video to talk about it with us. If you're one of those people, if you've ever sat through a race with your heart pounding, if you've ever felt that gut punch when your driver comes up just short, then you already understand why this channel exists. We're trying to build something here, one subscriber at a time, with people who actually care about NASCAR the way we do. So, if this video gives you even a few minutes of a good story, please consider hitting subscribe and tapping that like button. It genuinely helps us keep going, and it helps this channel reach more fans just like you. Okay, let's get into what actually happened. Let's set the scene, because the location alone makes this one of the strangest, most unforgettable race weekends NASCAR has ever run. This wasn't a normal track. NASCAR brought the Cup Series to Naval Base Coronado, just across the bay from downtown San Diego. The first time in the sport's history that a Cup race had ever been held on an active military installation. A temporary 3.4-mile, 16-turn street course was carved out of base roads and tarmac, timed around the 4th of July season as a tribute to the country's 250th birthday. An estimated 100,000 fans packed in to watch history happen, and nobody, not the drivers, not the teams, not NASCAR itself, really knew what to expect. What they got was chaos from the opening laps. A multi-car wreck in Turn 1 collected several front runners, including pole-sitter Shane Van Gisbergen early in the race. Then, late in Stage 1, disaster struck the number 23 car of Bubba Wallace. A right front wheel came loose and rolled away from his Toyota between turns 9 and 10, bringing out a caution and a 2-lap penalty that should have ended his day right there. Most drivers don't recover from something like that. Wallace did. He clawed his way back through the field for the rest of the afternoon, in what can only be described as one of the gutsiest comeback drives of his career. But the real story was building somewhere else entirely, inside Wallace's own team. For most of the race, it looked like Tyler Reddick was going to be the headline. Reddick, the points leader and the hottest driver in the Cup Series all season, was out front and seemingly in control as the laps wound down. He looked like he was about to add yet another win to an already remarkable 2026 campaign. Then, with fewer than 3 laps to go, everything changed. A young, part-time 23X driver named Heim, 23 years old, the reigning Truck Series champion, making just his 13th career Cup start, found himself running side by side with Reddick for the lead. On lap 73, Reddick slipped slightly in Turn 2, and Heim saw his opening. The two of them went door-to-door through turns 3 and 4. Reddick tried a crossover move heading into Turn 5, made contact with Heim's car, and shoved him toward the wall. It didn't work. Heim held on, and Reddick, after pushing too hard trying to get the position back, picked up a flat left front tire and faded all the way back to a 25th place finish. Heim crossed the line first, his first career Cup Series win in his 13th start on a brand new track nobody had ever raced before. And right behind him, completing an emotional and chaotic 23-axis sweep, was Bubba Wallace, finishing second, more than 10 seconds back, after that brutal penalty earlier in the race. It was the first 1-2 finish in the history of the organization. Now here's where the story most fans heard gets complicated. In the immediate aftermath, conversation started swirling about what exactly was said between Wallace and Heim in Victory Lane. Some retellings painted it as a veteran needling a rookie, a line about wins like this not coming around too often, as if to plant a small seed of doubt in a young driver's biggest moment. But when you actually go back to what Wallace said on the record after the race, a very different picture forms. Talking to reporters afterward, Wallace didn't sound like a man trying to overshadow his teammate. He sounded like someone wrestling with his own what if. He openly admitted that his face and body language might not show it because of how the day had gone for him personally, but that he was genuinely thrilled for Heim and for crew chief Booty Barker, the same crew chief who had once led Wallace himself to his first 2 Cup wins. Wallace pointed out that Heim had put in serious work behind the scenes, on weekends when he wasn't even racing, and said watching that pay off in just his 13th start was something special to witness. That's not the language of a teammate trying to diminish someone. That's the language of a driver who is simultaneously proud of his team and a little haunted by his own near miss. Wallace himself summed up his afternoon in 2 words. What if he had been penalized through no fault of his own driving, a loose wheel nut on pit road, and still salvaged a career-best road course finish? It's entirely human to feel both joy for a teammate and frustration for yourself in the same 10 seconds. If there's any sharper edge to this story, it may actually point toward Reddick rather than Wallace. Reddick was blunt and a little shaken after the race, openly admitting he overdid it trying to get back around his own teammate, that he ran him toward the wall, and that it wasn't the right way to race somebody on your own team. For a points leader who has dominated most of the season, watching a part-time development driver beat him for a win, using a piece of track real estate Reddick himself created by pushing too hard, clearly stung in a way that lingered well past the checkered flag. So when you strip away the noise, what you're actually left with is this: a chaotic, history-making afternoon, where a 23-year-old underdog outdrove 2 of his own much more experienced 23X teammates on a track none of them had ever seen before, in front of 100,000 fans watching NASCAR do something it had never done before. That, on its own, is one of the best stories the sport has produced all year. Here's why this moment is bigger than one race. Corey Heim isn't just a feel-good underdog who got lucky once. He's the reigning NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series champion. And just weeks before this win, 23 had already announced he would be stepping into a full-time Cup ride in 2027, taking over the number 35 car. This wasn't a fluke appearance from a nobody. This was a development driver the organization had already bet its future on. And he just delivered the single biggest proof-of-concept moment imaginable, beating his own future full-time teammates to do it. For 23 Seconds Racing as a whole, this result is almost symbolic of where the organization is right now. This is a team that, just a few years ago, was fighting NASCAR in federal court over how the entire charter and ownership system works. Co-owners Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin built this operation from nothing in 2020. Hamlin has said flatly that they started with 0 employees and built every piece of it themselves. 5 years later, in the same season this video is about, that team had already become the first organization in NASCAR history to have a driver win 3, then 5 of the season's first 9 races. Now, add a teammate sweep at the sport's first ever military base race, with the development driver leading the charge. That's not a fluke. That's a program peaking at exactly the right time. For those newer to the sport, it's worth understanding just how far this organization has come in a short amount of time, because it makes this San Diego result hit even harder. iRacing didn't exist until October of 2020, when Michael Jordan and Denny Hamlin announced they were forming a team together, with Bubba Wallace as their first driver. The name itself is a tribute to both owners, the 23 for Jordan's legendary basketball number, and the Roman numeral XI for the number 11 Hamlin has driven his entire Cup career. They bought their way into the garage with a single charter purchased from a struggling team and showed up to their first Daytona 500 in 2021 with almost no track record and enormous expectation. It didn't take long for the pressure to pay off. Later that same rookie season, Wallace delivered the team's first win at Talladega, becoming just the second black driver in NASCAR Cup Series history to win at the sport's top level, a genuinely historic moment for both the driver and the brand-new organization backing him. From there, the team kept expanding. A second car arrived in 2022 with veteran champion Kurt Busch, who delivered a win at Kansas before a career-ending injury forced his retirement. Tyler Reddick joined in 2023 and immediately won in his very first race with the team. A third full-time entry came in 2025 with rookie Riley Herbst, and Wallace himself added a crown jewel victory at the Brickyard 400 that same year. Through legal battles with NASCAR over the charter system, leadership turnover, and the growing pains of running 3 full-time teams at once, 23X kept building, and in 2026, it all clicked. Reddick opened the year by winning 3 of the first 4 points races, a feat that put him alongside legends like Dale Earnhardt in the history books. By the middle of the season, the team was operating, in the words of its own team president, about as close to perfectly as it ever had. San Diego, Coronado, technically, became the next chapter of that story. Not Reddick's chapter this time, but a 23-year-old who had spent years grinding through development rides, part-time Cup starts, and a Truck Series championship, finally getting his shot to prove it on the biggest stage NASCAR could build. So where does this leave us heading into the rest of the season? Corey Heim now has a Cup Series win on his resume before he's even started his full-time ride. He has, whether intentionally or not, set an enormous expectation for himself in 2027. Bubba Wallace heads into Sonoma with a what-if that might fuel him at a track that has historically given him trouble. And Tyler Reddick has to find a way to put a costly, emotional mistake against his own teammate behind him while still trying to hold on to the points lead he's built all year. 3 storylines, 1 team, 1 wild afternoon at a Navy base in San Diego that NASCAR had never raced at before and might never race at again. We want to know what you think. Do you believe this was simply the emotion of a tough day talking? Or do you think there's real tension building inside that 23-point garage? Drop your thoughts in the comments. We read every single one of them. If you enjoyed this breakdown, do us a favor and hit that subscribe button, tap the like, and turn on notifications so you don't miss the next one. NASCAR Report Today is built by fans, for fans, and every single subscriber helps this channel grow into something bigger. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.